Hi, this is Melissa Kirk, and I am talking to Lauren Taylor, whose book "Get Empowered" just was released. What was it, last week?
Yep,
This week? Last week?
last
Awesome!
week.
Congratulations! That must be
Thank you.
exciting. How tell so? Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process because you're in my Facebook group for self-help writers, and just wanted to talk about the process of getting published because so many people are curious about that. So tell us a little bit about, well, tell us about your book first, what it's about, what it solves.
My co-author, Nadia Telsey, and I are both empowerment self-defense teachers. And what that means, most people, when they think about self-defense, simply think about kicking and hitting. But what empowerment self-defense means is that we deal with the whole spectrum of things, from low-key microaggressions like uh, men interrupting you or claiming credit for your ideas at work, low-key unwanted touching, street harassment, etc., problematic, intrusive family members, etc. So it's not just when you're physically attacked, but it's sort of how to stand up for yourself and protect yourself on every level in everyday life.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing that makes empowerment self-defense different from what a lot of people think of as self-defense is that we understand how women and LGBTQIA plus people are targeted. Those are the two main groups who experience gender-based violence. And so our classes are realistic for the kind of issues we face in day-to-day life. Uh, so Nadia and I have each been teaching for over 35 years, and we wanted to write the books basically to reach more people
Mhm.
than all of us who teach empowerment self-defense around the US could ever reach in our classrooms. Um, it is a book that focuses on uh, the damage that gender socialization and patriarchy have done to us, that not only make us feel shame and self-blame for any kind of harassment, abuse, or assault we've experienced, but also that make it hard for us to take self-protective action. So that that um, if we hear voices inside of if somebody crosses our boundaries and we hear voices inside of our head that say things like, um, I shouldn't be rude, or I really want them to like me, or maybe I'm making too big of a deal out of it, or they don't mean anything by it. If you have those voices in your head, um, which have been put there by gender socialization, by how we've been taught to be nice girls, etc., this book will help you claim your power, your confidence, and hopefully offer you the tools um, uh, to take up more space in your life and be able to say no when you want to say no and ask for what you want and all of those kinds of things. It is like a lot of self-help books, it is a combination, traditional prose plus exercises. It's a workbook. It has about 104 exercises. So you can work on it at your pace, and pick and choose the things that are most important to you.
Nice. Well, it sounds like an amazing resource.
Thank
Um,
you.
thanks for thanks for publishing it. Um, can you tell us a little bit about just the publishing process? So, like, how was it? So, when did you decide, or what made you decide that now was the time to publish a book?
Uh, well, there was actually a lot of procrastination and foot dragging and avoidance because I found the whole process very intimidating, especially um, the process of writing the proposal.
Oh
And
yeah.
that took years. And really, truly, I procrastinated and was avoidant. There was one point at which I got stuck on something about the book's organization, and I literally didn't touch it for something like 6 months or a year. So I'm sure other people can, resonate with that to some degree or another. Um, but when we asked for a lot of help, particularly I asked for some consultations, um, and uh, and got the proposal in shape. Then I started shopping it to uh, agents, and I was specifically looking for agents who who specialized in self-help. And it didn't take me that long to get an agent. I mean, I've heard so many stories from so many people about how long, if you how long and how difficult it is to get an agent, and then how long and how difficult it is to get a publisher. And for whatever reason, both of those processes were pretty quick for us. Um, uh, and so then once we had a publisher and a contract, then we had a deadline, and then it was just like, okay, now this is what I'm doing. I mean, I do run an organization that teaches empowerment self-defense, so I couldn't write full time, but I was writing pretty much most of the time that I could squeeze, which was many, many hours a week. So that really forced me to, the contract and the deadline really
Yeah.
forced me to, uh, you know, focus
The work. You gotta
focus on
do it
that.
now. So who is the publisher, just out of curiosity?
Penguin Random House.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Wow. That's great. So, so the fact that you had so much experience and you were teaching this probably is one of the reasons why they were excited to publish, which is fabulous. Um, so so you sent in a proposal, or you actually got an agent. Um, they sent it to Penguin Random House. Then what happened after that? Like, so the agent got back in touch with you to say they were interested. How did that go?
We have an offer. I mean, the agent had sent it to the 13 publishers, and Penguin Random House was the only one that was interested, which was kind of shocking to me.
That's surprising to me too. Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, then, well, this is great. And
Right.
so then they set up a Zoom meeting. It was the agent, me, Nadia, my co-author, um, uh, the editor at the publishing house, and the assistant editor, and then two people each from the marketing team and the publicity team. And I mean, I feel like this whole umpty years, I've been learning so much about how the publishing industry works that, like, really would have been helpful to know more in the beginning. Um,
Can you give
but
me an
one of the things,
example? Or go ahead. Yes.
well, this was a very small example, but uh, like, I didn't understand that meeting was a sales meeting, that they were
Mhm.
trying to convince us. They didn't know if we had other offers. They were trying to convince
Mhm.
us to go with them. Um, I didn't understand that until afterwards, when my agent explained to me what was going on in that meeting. Um, so they kind of overpromised,
Mm.
um, in terms of what resources they would put behind the marketing and publicity, and, tried to
Mm.
blow us away so that we would say yes to them.
Mm.
Um, you know, but we would have said yes to them anyhow. Uh, but yeah, there were just so many steps along the way when I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't, um, like, for example, at this point, this is just an example. Um, Almost every single person I talk to about the book, and that is many, many people these days, including friends, as well as, you know, people in the world who are just curious about the book. about Get Empowered, the first thing out of their mouths is, are you going on a book tour?
Oh,
And like, so I didn't know that, unless you're in Patchett, they don't send you on a book tour. Um, uh,
yeah, that's
and I didn't know that. Okay, so that means if I want to do any touring, I have to set it up myself and I have to pay for it myself. And, there is no universe in which book sales will ever make back what it would cost to do that kind of traveling. And okay, so then there's the question, is it worth it for other reasons to pay for my own book tour, right? But then I found out that booksellers, bookstores around the country really don't want you unless you live there or you have a huge base there for some reason. So, like, these are just two examples of like the huge learning curve about
yeah,
how it works.
yeah. I've heard that from a lot of people. So things have changed a lot in the past 10 years or something like that about how one markets books. But it sounds like you could have used some upfront information about
Right.
what to
Yeah.
expect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're talking about it because that'll help other people, hopefully.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? So you're not doing a book tour. Um,
I do actually have three bookstore events. I
nice.
have
Are they
one.
local?
One was last week in DC, where I'm based. I have one later this month in at Women and Children First in Chicago, which is a feminist bookstore. And I have a basically I have deep enough roots in the world of people who teach empowerment self-defense in Chicago, that I would they were they were convinced that we all together could turn out enough people. So I'm going to do that, and then the other is I'm going I'm going to Baltimore, um, where there's a kind of a progressive lefty bookstore slash coffee house called Red Emma's, and I'm not sure what convinced them that I would be able to have a good turnout in Baltimore, except that I told them I've lived in DC my whole life, and um, that I know a ton of people in Baltimore. For those who are not in the know, DC and Baltimore are like 45 minutes apart. So
So
um,
they approached you, or did you send out?
no. I filled out the form on their
Oh,
website.
okay. Oh,
That's
okay.
how you do it. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and and that's a good one for me because it's 45 minutes away. I don't have any travel expenses,
yeah. Right, right.
and because I do know a lot of people in Baltimore.
Mhm. Well, yeah, definitely local. I think local is the way to go. Um,
The other thing I didn't know, just in this category, is
mhm.
I didn't know that booksellers frown on more than one event in the same city
Oh,
because they see it as cannibalizing.
right.
I have friends who have done multiple events in DC, and so I just thought that was normal,
Yeah.
but it's
I mean,
not.
DC, yeah, yeah. Well, especially, yeah, bookstores have been struggling for a long time too. So I think that's probably part of it. But yeah, so yeah, it sounds like a learning curve. What other types of marketing and promotion are you thinking about doing? Or
So, Penguin Random House is doing a lot of stuff. They do a lot of media outreach. They do a lot of connecting with influencers
Mhm.
in our field, our related fields, like um, people who do LGBTQ rights, or uh, people who do feminist stuff. Um, so they're doing a lot of influencers. They're doing a lot of media people. I'd have to open my spreadsheet to remember what else, but they're doing a lot of stuff. But the categories of things that they don't do also was a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we want these things done, we really have to do them.
Mhm.
So, like this, was not a surprise to me, but like, I had to build a website for the book.
Yeah, yeah.
That wasn't a surprise, but I have a whole spreadsheet from Penguin Random House of what they're doing
Mhm.
and parts of it that are my responsibility. And I have a whole spreadsheet of my own of marketing and publicity tasks. And really, it could be more than a full-time job, but
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, I'm just having to let some stuff go because I have other work that pays the bills.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot. You could just work, 24 hours a day and still have stuff to do for sure. So it's probably a matter of prioritizing what will have the most bang for your buck,
Exactly.
for your buck and for your book. Um, so one of my questions was what went well and what didn't go well. So you did kind of answer those already. What tips do you have for a new a new author, somebody who's trying to get published for the first time?
Well, I'll just say what was helpful to me. Um, I may get the title of this wrong, but I used a book that was called something like How to Write Self-Help Book Proposals That Sell. That was super helpful while I was writing the book proposal. And then Courtney Mom's Before and After the Book Deal um, was really helpful before and after the book deal, as promised. The other two things that were super helpful and I feel like got me through this process, which is, you think it's all about writing a book, but actually it's about learning an entirely new industry while you're doing it. Um, uh, so the other two things that were super helpful to me were the binders groups on
Oh
Facebook.
yeah. Hmm.
For those who don't know, um, they were named after Mitt Romney's Binders Full of Women. If you're not old enough to know what that means, go ahead and look it up.
I
But
remember that. Yeah.
yeah. So there started on Facebook just a group of women writers called the Binders, and now there are dozens of binders on all kinds of topics like binders on submission, binders seeking agents, memoir writing binders, food writing binders. I mean, everything you could possibly forthcoming in 2023 binder.
Oh
So
wow.
anything you could need. And through the process, I have been in several of these binders and I find them super helpful. Like
Mhm.
if there's something I need to know, I can go search the group
Mhm.
and find it. And if it hasn't been discussed, I ask the group, and everybody is super generous and helpful.
Okay.
So I definitely suggest getting connected with the binders and then finding some community of writers, whether it's your group, you know, Melissa, your group, or um, uh, I was in a writing group that is a very atypical writing group. We don't share work, but we co-write. Um, we co I co-wrote with them for a year, like 5 to 7 times a week. Um,
Co-writing meaning like you sat down and would write
yeah, we were on
your own
Zoom
stuff.
all over the country and all over the
Okay.
world.
Yeah.
Um, and the group also had like conferences and craft talks and
Mm.
a whole lot of different
Nice.
kinds of support. Um, and you don't have to have that kind of thing, but something where you have a community of writers that you can ask, like, how did you do this? Or I
Yeah.
don't understand this. Or,
Mhm.
you know, like actually, I'll give you an example. I don't remember what it was that came up, but sometime after I had submitted my manuscript, there was a process problem, something that was troubling me. And I don't remember what it was, but I was in a conversation on Zoom, I think, with one of the other writers who had been in my writing group. And she said to me, "That's an agent thing."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, I had no idea." Like it wouldn't even occur to me to ask if that was an agent thing. But she was like, go talk to your agent about this. And I was like, oh my God. And the agent was like, yes, you're supposed to be talking to me about this. But I would, never having done this before, I would have had no idea. And that's the kind of thing that being in a community of writers can really help with.
Yep. What is the binder that you found the most helpful?
Wow.
Well, was there like one that was just for writers publishing self-help books, or?
I was in binders full of creative nonfiction, binders full of intersectional feminist writers and editors.
Oh, so there's a few, yeah.
Okay. When this was relevant, I was in binders seeking literary agents. I was in binders building platforms. I was in binders full of nonfiction book and book proposal writers. I am in forthcoming in 2020. I'm not forthcoming anymore, but I was in forthcoming in 2023. Yeah, a bunch.
Okay.
And they're all
yeah.
The process.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely noticed that Facebook groups, there's so many for just, there's the binders, but then there's even non-binder, just, well, I'm in a lot of them. It's like, not, nonfiction writers, just writers in general. And there's a lot of good information in there, just in terms of what do I do now?
Right.
That's great. I'm glad you got that support.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, at the end of this video, I'm gonna put up some information about like how to get your book. And is there anything else you like, a website or anything else you'd like people to know about you?
So, let me type it in the chat and then I'll also
do that. Yep. And then I'll just put up a whole card that just has, and I'll put it in the description, like the links and stuff, so people can get your book. Awesome. Perfect.
So that's, hold on one sec. That's, the first one is the book. The first one is the book website, and it has a lot of resources on it. If you want to learn empowerment self-defense, it has a list of teachers. We actually, the book was too long and they asked us to cut something. So we cut an entire chapter and we're offering that as a bonus chapter for free on the website. So there's a lot of resources on the website. And then Defend Yourself is my organization if people want to get in touch with me or find out more about empowerment self-defense.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thanks so much again for publishing this. I'm going to buy it because it sounds really fascinating. And thanks so much for talking to me. This has been really interesting. Hopefully will be helpful to others who are wanting to get published. So
I really appreciate your interest and making the time to talk.
Thank you.
Take care.